But first, the investigation into last week's shooting at Fort Hood is still very much ongoing. And at this moment, what we know for certain about the primary suspect, Army Major Maddow-Hassan, remains very limited. The Associated Press reports tonight that he will be charged in military, not civilian court. Hassan was taken off a ventilator Sunday and is now awake and able to talk, although we don't yet know if he's been interviewed. ABC News reports that U.S. intelligence agencies knew months ago that Hassan was, quote, attempting to make contact with people associated with Al-Qaeda. But while NBC News has discovered that earlier this year, Major Maddow-Hassan did send an email to a radical cleric who used to preach at his mosque and who has advocated violent jihad, federal officials dropped their inquiry into the exchange. And the FBI says it has no information that Major Hassan was a part of a broader terrorist plot. We will, of course, continue to keep you posted on the actual facts of this inarguably tragic story, and we will continue to try to identify contrivances and fear-mongering when we are certain we see it as well. Today is also, of course, the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall and of the bureaucratic mistake that meant sort of the end of the Cold War. According to an hour-by-hour recounting of the day in the German magazine Der Spiegel, on November 9th, 1989, an East German lawmaker publicly read a draft of a new travel law that would have allowed East Germans to travel to the West. Although the draft hadn't been fully approved, in a moment of confusion, an Italian reporter asked the East German lawmaker when the new rules would go into effect. The lawmaker mistakenly blurted out, "Immediately," and thereby set in motion the mobbing of the checkpoints, the opening of the gates, and boom, they tore down that wall. The wall that no longer is turns out to have been a masterpiece of spy versus spy engineering. It was topped with round concrete tubes to make it really hard to scramble over. Your grappling hook will do you no good here. The border zone was a mass of tank traps and soft sand and vehicle trapping ditches. And parts of the wall were secretly left intentionally weak so that East German tanks could crash through them and knock them down if war erupted between East and West. To celebrate the fall of the wall today, 1,000 giant polystyrene dominoes were toppled over a 1.5-kilometer course in Berlin. Grappling hooks not included. And finally, Sky News Australia, the channel owned by Rupert Murdoch and run by his son James Murdoch, just landed the interview of the century with Rupert Murdoch. In it, the Australian media tycoon said he wants people to pay for all his news organization's online content. He said that search engines like Google, which index content, quote, steals stories. And he said he intends to stop them.
The other argument from Google is that you could choose not to be on their search engine, that you could simply refuse to be on, so that when someone does do a search, your websites don't come up. Why haven't you done that?
Well, I think we will.
An excellent idea. Then nobody will ever be directed to any of your stories through Google searches. And presumably, like Google, Murdoch will also become a verb. To Murdoch, to magically attract an audience to one's media product by ensuring that no one knows it's there.